This is the list, top 100 MCs in Zambia. Now, the list came out. We know that it's been controversial in a sense. And we're just chopping it up to not necessarily focus on who's in the top 10 or whatever. We can discuss that if you want to. But just about the philosophy of these top 10 conversations, GOAT conversations, heavy 8 conversations.
Yes.
Heavy.
Yeah, but have you got thoughts? So my thoughts, okay, let me start off. I saw that list, right? The first thing that came to mind is you at the top was Slap D, right?
Yeah.
Number 2 was Daddy Amos, may his soul rest in peace. And that confused me because in a sense, there's a whole different genre which Amos belongs to. He wasn't a rapper. Mm-hmm. So there should actually be a different parallel list which deals with ragamuffin type guys, you know what I mean? Where you'd have like a Jasi, if it was SA. In Zambia, to be like, Nasty D, Danny Kaya, and a lot of people. So it's a different lane. So just based on me glancing, not even far into the list, I thought, okay, this list is a bit odd. And, didn't even know whether to carry on checking it.
Who was number 1?
Number 1 is Slap D. Yeah, Slap D. I've got the list here, man. Let me just...
I mean, look, I was also kind of shocked. I'm a big Daddy Amos fan.
Yeah, same here.
So you still got the Chihuahua album on heavy rotation, but he belongs to a different genre. It's kind of like if Rolling Stones had added Shabba Ranks on their top 50
rappers,
right?
Yeah.
Like, what's Shabba Ranks?
What does Shabba have to do? Yeah.
What is Sean Paul doing there? Elephant Man. I don't know. And enough respect to Daddy Amos. He was one of the best in what he did, right? But then again, when I went in the top 10 list, also, can I refer to the Rolling Stones one? Because the Rolling Stones one hit me hard too.
That one also, they released that in January.
Yeah, because I was like, really, like
Number 1 on there was Aretha Franklin on top 10 singers. Oh, you're talking about the hip hop one.
The hip hop one where Jay-Z was number 1, and but I
do you remember the top 5 of that one, the Rolling Stones one?
I know Nas was, I think, a number 3 or number 2. I can't remember because I got so upset with it because Lauryn Hill didn't make top 10. I'm like, come on now. Look,
yeah, were there females in the top 10?
I don't think so. Or if there were, it was probably Nicki Minaj or Cardi B or something. But I don't think there were any females in the top 10. But even the top 10 itself was questionable, and the way they put it. And one thing, Jeffrey Atkins, Jaru, he didn't make the top 50. Yeah, I'm counting the government name, Chama.
You came in with that vibe.
Didn't make top 50. And I was like, you tell me the 50 rappers.
Yeah.
And 50 Cent didn't make top 10. 50 Cent had one of the biggest albums. He had one of the biggest group albums, a hip-hop movie, and the soundtrack, which was, they all went multi-platinum. Then he put Lloyd Banks on, and Young Buck, and Tony Yayo, and Game in 2 years. And all those things were multi-platinum, and you're going to not put him in the top 10? But anyway, let's get back to Zambia. That top 10 is suspect.
You even use the Zambian sounding phrase.
Yes.
Suspect.
Woo.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it and you say, Critic isn't in top 10?
What number was
K-Star? It was like number 13.
Critic was, I'm looking at it now.
Number 13, I'm sure.
Yeah, Critic 13. K-Star 14. Crisis 15. Sampa 16.
Wow.
Holstar 17.
You see,
Holstar
just
17.
Sampa the Great. Come on, huh?
But you know what, though? You know what?
Yeah.
And I think this list did that. You got to give us the criteria. You've got to make it so that we don't not get it. We have to get it just from jump. You telling us the criteria, then we have to get it, right? If you ask me, for example, my top 5 Zambia, very simple. Pompey, Tick, Holster, Duncan, Sampa, and I'll probably put, who else am I going to put in there? Chef.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Now, if you ask me, why have I put these people here, right? I'll probably say it's a very simple thing of like, I've met them. I like them. Yeah. It's a very, very biased list, very subjective. My criteria has nothing to do with sales, nothing to do with popularity, nothing to do with how long they've been in the game. It's just, I like them, and these are the guys I vibe with. I mean, I could add others on that list, right? But those would be my 5, and in no particular order. So that's what I'm saying is that if a list is not super clear on the criteria, and if the criteria is super subjective, then there's really not much to talk about.
Yeah.
You just have to accept, oh, I guess this is how they feel.
I suppose it's like in that particular list, you're right. They didn't, give any criteria at the top of it. And the other thing they did, which I think was a bit odd, is saying this is the official. Because when you say official, then what authority are you standing on when you say official? So that people, I suppose, respect the Billboard top whatever.
That sounds official.
Because Billboard is like a heavy organization. Rolling Stone,
that's as official
those kind of organizations. But if you say official, but then you don't back it up as to who you really are as the body that's giving that, and it's more likely that it's a person, because if it's a committee, they'd pick up stuff like you can't have Zemus at number 2 because he's not a rapper.
Well, what was the criteria?
But even the
They
Rolling
didn't say.
Stones ones.
You sure? I think they did say.
I saw it. Well, maybe if they put it on a different platform, but on the platform where they
On their website.
on the website or on the Facebook page rather, It just has a sentence saying the history of hip hop or rap. They define what the genre is.
Okay.
Then they talk about Sugar Hill Gang, what, and with that said, here is the top 100. So I don't think there's any clarification regarding that.
No, even the Rolling Stone one, I'll use that Zed expression again. It's suspect because like you think even the one with the singers and how.
Because Jennifer Hudson's not on the top 200.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you using? Is it sales? Is it?
Yeah.
And I think going by the hip hop ones, there's also a lot of immediacy bias. Like the one you put together, I agree with that 100% because I know where you're coming from. You are a person who puts together bars, so you know those guys. The top 5 you mentioned, those guys have got bars.
And
Samples got bars, Critic got bars, K-Star got bars. But.
It would explain why I love him.
You
So, for example,
explain why
I put
you
Pompey in that list.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, Pompey?
Why Pompey?
Yeah,
Because
why?
he's now
Because
dabbling
he's
and
now
singing
kind of
and-
singing more than he's rapping.
Yeah.
But that's because you all don't know that when he was rapping more than singing, he wasn't just rapping. He
It's
was
kinda-
amazing with those
Yeah.
bars.
It's
Yeah,
kind
he
of
was
like the
insane.
way people know Drake.
Exactly.
They think Drake is a semi-singer rapper.
Right,
but,
right.
But if you go back to his early work, Drake got bars. But Drake is just clever enough to know what sells and what's going to get him that additional market to move more units, right? But when we think about it, actually Drake is a great rapper.
He absolutely is.
If you look at the early stuff that he did before, he really got deep into Young Money, but that's another story for another day, right? But like this Zambian one, man, as a Zambian myself, wow, I was just like, look, maybe it's immediacy bias. It's the people have heard recently and who they think is cool right now. Just like the Rolling Stones one, like if you say, oh, you're going to put Little Uzi Vert there, like really?
Yeah.
But then the kids of nowadays will tell me, oh, Little Uzi Vert is dope.
And also, I mean, there's the immediacy factor, but I also see like some veterans on the list, like when you go higher up. And I get the sense that the guys who put together the list might not have even heard those guys spit. It's almost like you've heard the legend of.
Right.
And then, they need to belong in there because they're legacy artists. I'm not mentioning names. But the other point that you mentioned earlier also is fascinating because yours was, you said it was biased, because it's people that people who you've interacted with, people you've heard. It's your thing. I'm reluctant to put a top 5 because I'll be slaughtered by certain guys that I've collaborated with. And I collaborated with them because I like their vibe. But then if they hear the interview, because this happened to me actually once. I was asked who my top 3 rappers at the time were in Zambia. So I mentioned the 3, I can't remember who it was at the time.
Really?
And then the headline is Chilu Snub's ex, an artist name, who he's collaborated with. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, but that can't be the headline. The conversation was going.
Yeah, it was going this way. And there's only 5 spots. I mean, that's why it's gutsy to do a list. It's gutsy to do a list because you're putting yourself out there and you're opening yourself up for like backlash. Because I guarantee you, again, if the criteria are not explicit and absolute, right, where you objectively can say Eminem has sold more records than any other rapper on the face of the earth, and then prove it with actual like numbers, right? If you can't do that, your list is subjective, man. Because what are dope bars? What is a successful career? You know what I mean? What is an impactful artist? Like how do you measure these things? Yeah, these are abstract concepts. So you rank them and say, okay, we're gonna put Biggie at number 1.
Yeah.
Pac at number 2. We're gonna put Black Thought at number 3.
Yeah.
Jay-Z at number 4. Then it's like, oh, okay, your list is a mess. Why? Tell me why.
But that list makes sense, though.
Well, I mean, it would to you, right? It would to you.
Because I was going there, I was just waiting for Nas. All right, put Nas and we're good.
Well, I didn't get to like 4 or 5. But that's the thing. And another factor is if you pass away, right? Like now, I mean, AKA God rest. He's passed away. Instantly, he's in my top 5.
Yeah.
Instantly, right? Of South African and even African artists. Why? Because at this point, everything he's done up until the point that he's gone is not going to be in question, as far as I'm concerned. And you can't taint that. Yeah. Like you were saying earlier on, some of the OGs are being put at number 78, 92, because probably they're still around, but they're not putting out any more music.
Some of them, like one guy hasn't put out anything in 20 years. You
see what I'm saying? And they're therefore out of sight, out of mind, out of ear, out of, you know.
Not on the list.
But then with a guy like AKA, because he's passed and he's got a brand new album, by the way.
It's brilliant, man. I've been listening to it,
And because people like Park and Big died in their moment, they will forever be considered as top 10 worthy. Because they've... So now what does it say for the living cats? The ones who are still alive and still trying to make a list of some kind, and still, what, do they now have to be gone before they're acknowledged? You know, lists are a mess, bro.
But the other thing which is interesting is that the uproar is on two sides. So you've got the consumers who listen and like, no, this guy cannot be in the top 10, you know. And then you've got the artists themselves, because they've invested like a life's worth of passion and effort. Some of them have been chased from homes because they didn't want to study medicine and instead wanted to do hip hop. So you've given the culture all that. You've given your career all that. You know, you've put hours of studio time into your songs, and then you're at number 55. You know, you'd be like,
look, especially for hip hop artists. I'm sure it must be a jarring feeling, because no MC has ever said, I'm the second best MC in the world. Feel me? You know what I mean? There's only one person, and I heard this recently, right? And funny enough, he's Zambian. It's K-Star. I think it was on the DJ Mzenga freestyle thing, where he says he's the best. If there's only one person that could be better than him, it would be Critic. Then I was like, wow, that's respect.
That is,
He was going back, and they were going back and forth on the freestyle. Then he actually gave his boy respect to say, you know, maybe I could only be second to this guy. And then I was like, wow, that's enough respect. But
that is enough respect.
Other than K-Star, I've never, even like, and I would say Lou Yachty or whatever, he would probably say I'm better than Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Well, like Reese right now, I think he's saying he's the best in Africa or something.
Yeah. I suppose you got to posture a little bit and say...
Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's kind of, especially with hip-hop.
DNA
Hip-hop is always about like, I will be the one right at the top. I will be number one. I will be the best, you know? And I think if you're striving for perfection and you're striving for greatness or whatever, you can't strive for number 2. Because that's like a low bar to aim for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just on your point as well, another guy who was okay with losing the number 1 position, and I say that with quotation, air quotes, was KRS-One. Remember the Chris line? I'm not saying I'm number 1. Oh, I'm sorry, I lie. I'm number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. That was his line. The only way he could not be number 1 is because he's number 2, 3, 4, and 5. You know.
But here's the thing. Remember that story of him like beating up that dude from PM Dawn?
Yeah, he threw him off stage. Yeah, he threw him off stage.
Did he throw him off stage?
Yeah, Boogie Down Productions threw PM Dawn.
Prince, what's his name? Prince something.
Was it Prince B?
Because he kind of thought like, this guy's not a rapper, but he's getting props and he's number 1 on the charts. Why not?
The PM Dawn cat. Yeah.
Getting nominated for hip hop awards and whatever. And KRS-One was like, after all the work we put in, no.
Yeah, he's had a couple of those skirmishes over his career. Yeah, the other one with Nelly as well. But PM Dawn did used to kind of polarize hip hop audiences, but for no reason. Maybe that's why number 2 is number 2. Because when you talk hip hop, you have to include the broader sort of aspect of it. That there's some people who will still be considered hip hop, even though they don't rap like you guys would say rappers should rap. You understand what I mean?
But what I like about, I mean, the lists like this, lists like, you know, the Rolling Stone one or whatever, is that they spark up conversation.
Oh yeah.
And the conversation is like barbershop, bus stop conversation, podcast conversation, which then kind of, you know, sometimes allows us to zero in on stuff. You had, I'm assuming, with the Heavy 8 conversation, people debating the list or, you know.
Yeah, they did. But I think with me, it's clear. Anytime I do those things, it's super subjective and there's no authority but me. Like there's no criteria, there's no consultation except mine, you know. So I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna tell me who I should put on my own song, on my own track number 8 of my own debut album with my own peers? Like, no, you're not gonna do that. But what people have done is they've over the years they've asked for like permission to do one of their own.
Oh, really? Yeah,
They've asked for me to do another newer, updated version with current artists. Like, so there's different ways of trying to interpret the concept of Heavy 8. And remember, Heavy 8 wasn't just about a list. Heavy 8 was about a concept, an idea. You know, 8 bars, 8 rappers, track number 8. And the thing about that is no chorus, just 8 verses back to back. There was much more to it than a ranking. And at the end of the day, there was no ranking except the one who goes last. And why? Last letter. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So that wasn't a list like today's list. You understand what I mean?
Would you do it again though? Like with these requests that you get, would you, in any form, like revisit
man,
it?
to be honest with you, I am reluctant to ever want to breathe new life into like moments that have gone by. I mean, I can't tell other people what to do with art that's out there. You do what you want. But me personally, it's almost like you want to tap into kind of an old energy and an old time in a new way. Whereas I'm a new person, it's a new day, it's a new energy. I had a conversation with you actually, Konda, about this, about creating in this current moment and writing and releasing in this current moment. To then have a backdrop of like a Heavy 8 as like what informs your creativity. It's a little bit limiting and it's actually very lazy, you know, and it lacks authenticity, I think. If it's done authentically, I suppose you could do it. But me personally, I don't even play Heavy 8.
Wow.
But you play stuff from your catalog from before.
No.
You don't?
No, sir.
So we're alone playing your old jams.
We're alone jamming.
The architect is like...
Is it like you feel it might influence anything you might be working on now?
I don't think so, you know. I think I have a very interesting relationship with my own catalog, and I don't think it's unique. I think a lot of creators have this. There's never a time when I hear my own music and I just hear my music. There's other things there, you know. Memories, self-critiquing, like, oh man, I shouldn't have used that snare. Or, you know, now that I think about it, this, you know, then it just becomes like what it shouldn't be. Like, you should just let the music be what it will be. And I haven't been able to engage my own catalog that way. But also, I mean, I don't know what it's like. I mean, you've all had like legacy stuff in your own spaces. There's something about kind of something narcissistic almost about wanting to just delve into your own things for a moment, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe to recalibrate and find your true north, maybe. But other than that, like, what you doing listening to your own stuff, man?
No, actually, you remind me. I just can't put my finger on his name. It's not Jason Momoa, but it was an actor who said they don't watch their movies.
Oh,
I
hear that a lot.
It comes out and they don't even bother watching it.
Yeah.
People tell them about it. Oh, you look good in that movie. You did this. But I suppose maybe it's the same with you. You just don't want to go back there and start patting yourself on the back, right?
You see,
man, and you also don't want to move forward from that. And creativity is strange, and I mean that's why I love this list in its top 100. Is that it's acknowledging what's done, but the list is today. It's what's coming out now. You know. So as a creator, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to what's done? No, it's not going to change the list.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can then use the list to create something new, right? And that's for me. That's why going back to old stuff is like, what are you looking for there? You know, what's there for you there? What are you hoping to find? Again, you might connect with the true north of who you are if you've strayed from the path. If you find yourself like questioning, yo, man, what am I about? Like, I feel like I've lost maybe go back. But other than that, like if you're creating today and you're basing it on yesterday, that's not your job. That's the job of people who create lists. Their job is to look at what you made yesterday and make a list today. Your job is to look at that list today, if you want, and create something today from the list. Better yet, ignore the list. Create something the list will have something to write about tomorrow. That's my stance.
It's interesting. I'm borrowing some of what you're saying to try and make sense of something that I've been monitoring with LL Cool J station, Rock the Bells. So when Rock the Bells on Sirius XM started, it was playing old jams. So if you wanted to listen to old school hip hop, you'd go to that channel. But then he started saying, that's not what it's totally about. Now it's about if Big Daddy Kane was to release something today, and ordinary radio won't play. There's an audience that's been built who will mess with it with Big Daddy Kane stuff.
Absolutely.
So he's playing yesterday's stuff and also allowing guys to still be, furnishing the platform with their current stuff because you won't find it anywhere else, which I find interesting.
Yeah, it's actually it's quite that's quite a noble move because I only recently did I realize that Cool G Rap has got a recent album.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, I didn't even know. You see, but I think on Rock the Bells they probably would play that kind of stuff, especially because he's also East Coast. So 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 that's actually quite interesting. But I like the way you think about the fact that you don't want to live in the past. You don't want to dwell on what happened. Even if it succeeded, you don't want to dwell on that. It's funny, I've got a DMX documentary at home, just can't remember the name, where he was talking about something really different because when they asked him what does he do, because he was one of the first artists to have 2 platinum albums in 1 year. And they asked him, X, what do you do when you think about your next project? He goes, I look back and see what was successful in my previous album and see if I can replicate that or make something similar. And I was quite surprised. I was like, I always thought artists would always want to say, I look at what, I did last time and maybe do something completely different and explore in different. But X for a while, I think for his first 5 albums, he would look at what worked last time and try and replicate it. Like, okay.
It's an awesome approach. I mean, each to their own. I like that approach in the sense that it reminds you of the scientific process, right? The scientific process works exactly the same way. You put something out as almost like to validate assumptions, right? To test this thing. And then you validate your assumptions and you see what's working, what's not. Then you review that and then you go with the things that are working, you build on them, you ditch the ones that aren't working, and then you keep improving that way. It's one of the best ways, that's why the scientific process uses it, to get closer and closer to perfection, to the truth and to accuracy. So if he's creating from that place, then clearly he's got almost like a scientific approach to his art form. And especially to its impact, right? It's like, what worked last time? Cool. There's something there for us to build from. Let's build. I admire that. I think that's something to admire. Personally, I'm not, and that's another thing about it, is that when you create from a place of emotion, right, and your heart is just all over that thing, revisiting that stuff, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys used to write when you were younger, because I know you guys are both creators and stuff,
Kind of.
Kind of? So sometimes you go back to something you might have written or created when you're like, I don't know, 12 years old or something random. There's no way you can engage with that version of yourself, reading that thing in this new version of yourself, and not be taken into some other path, some other journey, some other space. You're not always ready for that. Some people experience it with pictures. They don't want to look at pictures from an era gone by or of somebody who's passed away or whatever, of their own childhood, because there's certain energies that you have to be willing and ready and prepared to engage. If you're not willing and ready and prepared to engage, why are you going there? So for others, all it is a song. It played, it used to be on radio. I fell in love to this song. For you, it's your heart and soul. It's memories. I mean, my debut album, my dad died that year. Listener's Digest is probably one of my most seminal works. That's a debut album. You can't top Listener's Digest, ever. It's a debut. But I have to remember my dad passing. I have to remember his funeral. I have to remember the songs and how we recreated them. I have to remember how Battle Cat was in the moment that we're doing that. So these things, as I'm listening to the song, I'm not just going, woo, that line. Oh Lord, that snare. That stuff, there's list people, they do that. They come up with a list because they're hearing, woof, that snare, woof, that line. The artist is like, I told you about how my dad passed away. And you put me at number 78.
But tell me,
your list.
So how do you connect with such things like lists? Because if is it important to you, like if say there was a ranking of a list somewhere, and your name were in there, on some position, because of how personally you take your music and how you just kind of treat it like it's art that lives and has a life of its own once you release it to the world. Do you personally now, as do you take lists seriously if guys rank you or whatever?
Of course you take it seriously because you're being mentioned, your work is being mentioned, and it is lists, right? It's opinions, right? It's people talk about it, like you're saying, they engage on different platforms. So you want to be in the conversation. But I think Chef mentioned it and Young Verbal mentioned it as well when we chatted. Like ultimately what you want to do is you want to inspire, you want to motivate, you want to do all those things. But at the end of the day, it's really your thing. You know what I mean? It's your thing. So you contextualize, man. Without context, you're lost, man. So you have to put context to everything. add context to this thing, and it makes perfect sense. You can take criticism, you can take losing at awards shows, you can take not making top 5 in lists, because you've contextualized. Now you know what you're dealing with here. You're not dealing with people who are actually artists who are critiquing a line, or you're dealing with journalists who are actually measuring impact
based on some parameter,
some kind of scientific process that you're using a structured approach to critique. You're dealing with public opinion, for example, or something whimsical, or so you have to kind of contextualize. So me, I learned the hard way to contextualize when it comes to how people treat your art, receive your art, etc. I had to learn by actually putting too much stock in other people's expectations, other people's opinions, and then it coming back to bruise me so hard that I had to sit back. And at the time, there was a guy called Zeno. He ran our label, and he was my mentor, continues to be. He said to me, you know what, sit in this moment. Because that moment was a bad moment. We were at an awards show and we didn't win.
Yeah,
and
I remember,
I think I told you about it. And he said, yo, man, never again get to a position where you put it on them and not on you. Once you give them that much as a creator, I think it's all lost. I've seen it with football players as well. Soccer players, sometimes they just play to the audience, they play to the headlines, they play to the chatter, and then they forget to be in the game. They forget their teammates. They forget the objective.
That happened with Rashford like a few weeks ago. I'm talking Man U.
Man U, there goes the Red Devil.
You see, the guy had a lot of pressure. Like he's gonna score 11 into something like 11 straight games. So that game was for him important, but it meant he started now messing up opportunities because he's hell bent on scoring, such that even if a guy has a better opportunity, he's just kind of like, then we lose that game,
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's connected.
And now he's in a moment. Sorry. I'll let you go now.
No.
Now Rashford is in that moment, right? I don't know if it's Ten Hag, but he's put his head down.
Yes.
He's now just focused on his role, the goal, the goal.
Yeah.
And he's now on the list again.
Number
one striker in Europe. They put him on a list. You know what I'm saying? On form,
pressure on him.
He's the hottest striker right now in the game. Oh, there go that list again. But 2 days ago, you were calling him Trashford and you wanted him gone. They were calling him Trashford. He's Red Devil.
It was Chilu.
It was Chilu.
Chilu and them.
No, we're moving into sport. I've got one after you.
Oh, really? No, I just wanted to ask you guys, right? Because I don't know if you made the list.
I know. Chilu Lemba should be on this list.
Are you there?
Chilu Lemba should be on this
I'm there with a misspelled name.
Right.
Okay.
In the 50s. In the
Yeah, in the
50s,
50s.
somewhere in the 50s. But here's what's funny. I thought about it because with me, it's just, it's fun. It's a conversation. And I thought like when I used to be bongo, not knowing myself, but just like, that aggressive, when rap is all, I would have been like, up in the tweets. But, like now it's, yeah.
Because that was where
it means,
my question was going to go. If both of you were number one or number two in there, looking at the other talent, would you be just like, nah, okay, so they love me? Or would you go in the tweets and say, but guys, let's keep it real. I believe K-Star should have been ahead of me, or I believe Slap
Yeah,
should have been.
I think it depends on each individual, like you're saying, each their own. I think now being the guy who I am, I mean, like, dude, when I was bongo, there was a guy, I forget his name. We had me and him a battle at Kabulonga Boys.
Nice.
And the guy in the swimming pool, the empty swimming pool, and guys would go
With the
in.
frogs at the end.
Yeah.
They were the beatboxers.
Exactly. This guy had, smoked some stuff, whatnot, and they were like, no, bongo. I went in there, man, I spit my rhyme. This guy was just like, when the guy's like eyes are small and he's just, flooring me. Why? He's not in the list, you know what I mean? So like stuff like that, you realize like, it's I'd be honest, I think. Like if I'm given a position, but that's what Kirk Franklin did actually at the Grammys. Look for a Facebook Live that he did the night of the Grammys, where he went on and he said, I've got an announcement, join you on the live at 2:00 or whatever. Then on the live, he was like, okay, I was impressed with the hip hop presentation. That was amazing, whatnot. When it comes to gospel, he says like there are a lot of awards that I've got based on who I am.
Right.
Not because of the
work
fact
that
that
I
I
did.
deserve them, but just my name has gone forward and whatnot. So now that, the award ceremony is over, let me give you a list of guys you should look out for in gospel.
Oh, nice.
Who I'm, Then he started giving a list, man, and like where to stream them. And that was his whole life.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's a maturity that I think is admirable. But you know, that's not, especially rappers. We won't do that.
No, the rap game is crazy. It's competitive sport at the end of the day.
It's so competitive. I think if they put me at number one, I'd be like, I never rapped in my life.
No, for real. I agree with Chilu. I think the authenticity is the most important thing. Like, if you feel like you want to complain and do almost like a Kanye at the awards, where Kanye was like, I'm going to let you finish, but Beyonce, if you want to do one of those, say, I see you're number one, but Sampa, man, you know, then you can. My thing is, if it's not authentic to you and you feel like you have to do it as a way of marketing or that,
don't do it. Exactly, because you're just playing to the audience.
Exactly, you know. And then also just the disingenuous vibe of saying, I'm just glad I made the list. Like, you're not just glad you made the list. No one is ever just glad they made the list. They want to be as high as possible on the list, right? So you have to be honest with that. I personally, I think publicly, I wouldn't really do anything. You know, because it's not my list. And publicly, I don't comment like that, right? Privately though, I'll be saying Chilu Kaunda, I'm saying, yo, they put me at number 3, bruh. 3. And you know what's number 2? I can't believe number 2. And I was number 3. And I'll be like, Chilu, what do you think, bruh? And then obviously Chilu, depending on whether I'm at his house or he's at mine, he'd be like, yeah, you should have been at number 2, bruh.
No, but it's like this thing in December when I went for that voiceover thing. So I got this award, and
big shout out.
Africa
stood up. Africa stood up that day.
Yeah, we're all here.
But that's the thing, you know, like you're thinking to yourself, like, okay, I've flown 36 hours, I've done this, I've, bought this suit, I've done all that stuff. You're in that place and you're like, okay, so if I don't get this award, it'll be like such an anticlimax. But at the same time, I watched the because, there were 2 of us in that category, even though there were 5 jobs, 4 being mine. Just padding all, but I watched her thing and her ad was good, the other lady. And I thought, like, this is actually award worthy.
Yeah.
So if she won, I would have been, I had no problem. I was going to applaud her work. Just, fortunate that, I was able to bag it. But I think it's also age and 100%. Just like a bigger picture view. Because with these things, you can pivot the information into some other thing,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally. I felt almost exactly the same way, Chilu, with my second album nomination.
Yeah.
Because in that year, there were 5 of us nominated. I think it was 5 or 4. So it was Tumi and the Volume, 340 Mil, Tumi himself as a solo artist, myself, right, with F4 Music, and I think it was Flabber. Flabber.
Yeah.
So all 4 of the other groups, which was literally just 2 groups ultimately, right? Tumi and the Volume, 340 Mil, all part of the same squad, right?
Yeah.
We were performing that night on the actual award stage, which was being live on SABC1, and we're all doing this thing, and we're like, one of us is obviously going to walk away with this thing.
Yeah.
One of us wins, we all win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Flabber won that year.
Yeah.
Right? By then already, I'd had that heartbreak, right? From the
previous time, yeah.
I realized at that point that, you know what? Yeah, Flabber deserved that, And even if he didn't get it and one of us deserved it, it would have still felt like it was cool. It would have felt like it's a win regardless, And that's obviously, like you say, it speaks to a maturity, but it speaks to more of, like, again, context and putting things in their place, putting things in their boxes, so that you don't invest too much on something external.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a creator, and I guess as a high-performing sports person, like we said, you have to focus on that first.
Yeah.
That has to be your primary focus.
Yeah.
And then everything else, accolades, lists, all that stuff has to come afterwards.
Yeah. I should actually check. I haven't checked guys that I collaborated with. Remember earlier I was saying that, got slack. But I mean, I collaborated with Chandambao, a good friend. I haven't seen, where he is on that list. But, Chandambao, Shimasta.
Shimasta.
Yeah, Shimasta. I don't know where he is on the list. But Slap D, guys, you should watch Slap D. Especially there's a track which he does with Chanda called Too Much, I think. Too Much, Maning. And then Slap D raps in Tonga. I have never heard. But he just goes like for a long time. He's just in Tonga. Because who raps in? Okay, Who raps
in Tonga? Pause that.
Seriously, but Tonga is one of those languages where it's got a source about it, but it's difficult. And I'm just saying this may be biased, but it's difficult to make certain languages sound beautiful in terms of hip hop.
Yeah, I hear that.
You know, so like some languages, like whatever language Sarkodie raps in, that he's able to make it like machine gun type thing.
Yeah.
Bemba, we're accustomed to it because of our ear. Slap D when he does Nyanja. But when Tonga, it's like a rare thing. But he just goes and it's like a beautiful 2 minutes or whatever it is. If you do have a chance, just check that
No,
thing
I'll
out.
definitely check it out.
You know,
No,
yeah.
I'll check that.
Check out our number one man on the list.
Okay, I'll definitely check him out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about rapping in something outside of English, whether it's in Mandarin because they do, and or German which they do, or French or Xhosa. Like there's a quality that the language brings that will either add to your vibe and your flavor, or it'll take away. I've noticed, and depending on how harsh the language is, some languages just come out harsh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some folk always say that Shona sounds harsh.
Like if you remember.
Now you're like, oh, it sounds so harsh. But when cats are rapping in that, you know, you're like, yo, that sounds like amazing,
Kenan,
right?
Kenan when he's rapping in Arabic, when there's that rap he does with Most Def, I think, with Yasin from his second album.
Dusty Foot Philosopher.
No, then must be the album that had Waving
Dusty
Flag.
Foot might actually have been the first one.
Yeah, Dusty Foot I think was the first one.
The one with
Then-
Waving Flag, okay.
Yeah, the one with Flavor. Yeah, he does a rap with Yasin and whatnot, and he goes in
Arabic.
It's beautiful, yeah.
No, look, I think it's also about the delivery, because some people make Bemba sound like it's a language to be argued in. But sometimes
Yeah,
you can get romantic in it. Same
can.
with
Yeah,
Nyanja.
yeah.
Nyanja always sounds like you're trying to sell me something. I'm my customer. You know what I mean? Like, it's always
It's a marketplace conversation.
You know
at
what I'm
this point.
saying?
Here's a Bemba man with his cousinship dissing the other tribe. You see,
Like you're trying to sell me something. But you can flow in Nyanja big time. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Now you can flow in just about any language if you master the language and if you definitely sit beautifully on the beat, and then you write amazingly. Because that's the thing about it. Hip hop is so fair that way. Like it doesn't discriminate. That's why I like to see women on these lists.
Yeah.
Because the thing about being a woman in hip hop is that you don't have to get the one up of like a list put you there because you're a woman. You're MC Light, so you had to be there.
Yeah.
You're Sampa the Great, so you had to be there. Now, the reality is with hip hop, if your bars are nice, and if you sit on the beat dope and you have a great command of the language and you can like paint these pictures beautifully, I don't think it matters that you are woman, man, rapping closer. No. People just gravitate to the energy of the bars. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to see more women on these lists. Yeah. I don't think there's a reason why they should not be part of it. Yeah. My wife once even said to me, there's something almost like, with the bro vibes of hip hop, where it's just a guy's game.
Oh yeah.
It almost forms like this
yeah,
huge barrier for women because they just automatically think, more barriers to entry, more than just about me being nice. Yeah. But it isn't. If you're nice, you're nice. I mean, Kondo's talking about Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
Lauryn Hill is a hands down. Everyone will tell you right now that's top 10. She would make one.
Top 10 dead or alive. Lauryn Hill.
Absolutely.
Top 10
Easy.
Or Rhapsody.
And it has nothing to do with her being a woman.
Yeah.
Rhapsody, top 10.
Rhapsody,
dead or alive.
Yeah.
You heard on that track with Kendrick, Complexion. Man, she goes in and
No, rap goes in. Rap goes in.
Some of the battle rap ladies as well in the US are nuts. Bananas. So, I mean, that's one thing I love about hip hop. It's a level playing field for anyone who can bring it. Bring your A game.
Cleo's on the list somewhere. Bombshell's on the list somewhere.
Yeah,
Top 20? Who's the first woman in the top 20? Is there a woman?
Sampa 16. Yeah.
And she's the only one?
And then Cleo's 20.
20. Okay, so Sampa and Cleo.
So 2 in top 20.
That's not bad,
Princess Natasha Chance, have you heard her? Man, check her out, man. She's amazing. She's on 36 on the list. 36, okay. Next to Chandambao at 37.
Okay.
Sounds like a chart show now. Number 37, we have.
Taking me back to radio.
No, but then again, lists like Zabs, I got to take it back to what you said. They're very subjective.
Yeah,
because I've got nephews now that are in their early 20s, late teens, and when we talk about hip hop, who they like and why they like them is very different to me. Talking about Nas, Jay-Z, Pac, and Biggie, X, and them. What they tell me about the little people, and I mean that in
Little this, little that.
Little Durk, little baby,
Lil Nas X, Lil Baby.
When they tell me about who they like, and,
The little people.
yeah, I just gotta qualify the little people. Right? Might get into
I
trouble.
was like, we are the littles.
No, yeah, it could be the littles.
We
Let's
are
just
the
qualify who the little people are. The little Durks and little babies.
Little Uzis, yeah.
They
Uzi Vert.
really into that sound.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds very trippy and that, but they're really into that sound, and they recognize the bars in there that I might miss. And hip hop also has continued to evolve. You know what Mel was doing when he goes, it's like a jungle outside. It makes me wonder how. Right now we're like, damn, those are kind of not exactly, but they built the foundation for guys like you guys who've actually delved into the art form. But obviously now I can't say Mel is better than LL. Hey, that was a bar right there. I can't say Mel is better than LL, but he deserves that respect. So, but if I was making a list, would I put Mel?
I don't think Mel's on any list, apart from like, founders of.
But you understand what I mean. But even if it's a Curtis Blow, even if I say Rev Run and DMC, can I put them ahead of LL? Can I put them ahead of Jay-Z? But they were there, in those early days when it was being built
LL is
up.
about to release a new album.
Yeah, he said
I can't wait to hear that.
Produced by Q-Tip. And he said it's the best thing he's done ever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the best thing you've done ever?
Yeah, I
I
can't
hope
wait.
that's not a marketing. But I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait
Because
to hear it.
Q-Tip and he's got
No,
joints.
Q-Tip's
Probably
bad,
Soulquarians,
man.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He
Q-Tip's
didn't just do stuff with Tribe. He also did stuff with like, D'Angelo.
Yeah.
He did one of my favorite Nas joints, One Love, on the Illmatic album. That's Q-Tip, right?
Do you guys have top fives? We probably need to wrap, but
Do we have?
you top five international.
List. Hey.
Listen,
I already gave you my Zambia one, right?
yeah.
I think I'm gonna bump Sampa off that list and put Chilulemba on that top 5 list. You know what I'm saying? Sampa.
Let's be real. Let me go back to
Sampa
that.
and how Wakanda vibes. Let's just fall back,
Let me go back to
Future
that thing.
ancient. Forget a future ancient.
That thing
I'll
of
put a
being
current
mature,
ancient. Chilulemba.
I refuse. I refuse respectfully.
No, I already gave you my top 5
yeah.
South
Zambia,
Africa one. I already alluded to the fact that I'm easily now putting AKA in my top 5.
Yeah.
Africa.
And you should listen to that joint, man. That Mass Country is a great
Is it
album.
good?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I think I'll be able to hear it in a couple of weeks. I'll listen to it and I'll digest. But that's all I'm going to say about lists for today.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, same here. My list changed from week to week.
Yeah,
Like this week I've been listening to a lot of Cardinal Official.
Oh,
Canadian.
Cardi Official.
And I've just realized how
What?
much I underrated that guy as an MC.
Do you know who put me on Cardinal Official? Was Kenan.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even know this dude until Kenan was like, yo, Cardinal Official.
But you see the way I was saying, like, because you mess with Kanan like up and up.
Well, thanks to Tumi, right? Because Tumi and Kenan were doing their thing, and then I got to meet him when he was down in South Africa.
I watched you when you performed. What was it? Carfax.
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 It's the Z in you coming out.
Yeah, coming out saying Carfax.
Oh, Carfax. I saw you performing at Carfax.
But you were there, and that I didn't even know you then.
Yes. We hadn't actually started forging our relationship. Yeah.
What a great show that was.
It was beautiful, right?
Yeah.
No, I was saying my list changed from week to week. If you ask me about my top 5, I mean the most consistent MC there would be Nas. Because I'm a big Nas fan. But Biggie and Pac sometimes change positioning, and Jay-Z comes in. Sometimes I pull him out and put Jadakiss, depending on what's happening at that time. I'm a big Styles P fan. Then West Coast, Ras Kass, Ice Cube, Corrupt. Like it depends on that week, And then you got when I'm listening to like your Latifahs, your MC Lights, Lady of Rage. Yo-Yo,
what are you doing at top 100 day?
I'm just saying.
He's got such similar tastes with me.
Really?
Yeah, all the names he's rattling are like...
It changes,
Hitting me
from
hard.
week to week. I was letting my daughter listen to Yo-Yo because I was trying to tell her about how...
Don't mess with my...
Can't mess with my
we
Yo-Yo.
played that...
They tried to play me out.
I Want to Be Down
the remix. Yeah.
And then she was asking me, Yo-Yo sounds like a funny name because, she hadn't heard of Yo-Yo.
Yeah.
Then I started telling her about, did you notice that the female MCs on that Brandy video were all dressed fully? And then I started explaining to her about Moni Love and Queen Latifah and all that kind of stuff, and how they didn't need to make songs like WAP to go platinum or to be successful. So to me, you know I went left with it, but it changes every week.
Okay.
I mean, if you ask me today, it won't sound the same next week.
Yeah, wow.
Beautiful.
For me, LL's there all the time because of, growing up as a kid, I listened to that guy like day in, day out, word for word when I was, so, some guys look at me funny, like LL, but yeah, for me, he's in there. And I don't know, Big Crit.
Oh, Big
What a
Crit.
great shout.
Now you're talking. Down south, Big Crit.
Yeah,
Southern
I'll just leave
vibe.
those two names. That's it. I won't venture further left or right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
This is good, gentlemen.
Yeah.
This is good. I think we got quite a lot of.
See, gave us the talking points. So something came nice out of this list.
Yeah, man.